Battle through the firmament. Grand world. Chapter 348 Great Luo. The number one genius of the Yunlo, Mahuyang. He. I heard that this kid has a reward of 1.5 billion monic crystals. What? Tusk. How many heavenly cores does he need to sell in order to get this reward? A skinny middle-aged man with a hooked nose stared at Mahuyang like a poisonous snake and spoke with a hoarse voice. Shulia, you can't say that. This kid's talent is the most eye-catching. Who knows what kind of level he will reach in the future. At that time, the damage he will cause to the capital of chaos will not be as simple as 1.5 billion. Beside the middle-aged man, a slightly strong middle-aged man looked at Mahuyang with a smile. Both of their appearances were quite similar, but the only difference was their fat and thin bodies. Suxing, Shulia, join hands with me and kill him. You will get a share of 1.5 billion monic crystals. Luogen's expression was cold. A group of Emperor's subordinates had already been scared out of their wits by Mahuyang. With just him alone, he might not be a match for him. Sect Master Luo, we have agreed on this beforehand. The Silver Moon Group will take the essence of the Silver Moon from the Dark Golden Beast. The Mercenary Alliance will take the corpse of the Dark Golden Beast and the Heavenly Core. We will take what we need from each other. We don't owe each other anything. How many monic crystals do you plan to take out if you want us to fight? The middle-aged man named Suxing narrowed his eyes. He wasn't stupid. He had heard about Mahuyang's strength before. Back when he was still an emperor, he was able to kill a monic emperor, and he had no idea how strong Mahuyang was now. With his cautious personality, he naturally wouldn't act recklessly. It's too early to say all of this now. Let's kill him first. Luogen was infuriated upon hearing this and said while holding back his anger. Stop dawdling. Mahuyang took a step forward and looked at the three peak of Monic Emperor warriors. There was no fear on his face. He pointed the heavenly net sword in his hand at the void and stomped on the ground. Like a white lightning bolt, he streaked across the void and pointed at Luogen and the other two men. Arrogant brat. Seeing that Mahuyang had actually taken the initiative to rush over, the middle-aged man called Shulia laughed out of extreme anger. He held his hand in the air, and a battle axe appeared in his hand. Let me fight you, Shulia roared. He flapped the wings on his back and rushed towards Mahuyang. Luogen and Suxing did not dare to be slow. They also rushed forward. Mahuyang was not a match for him alone. They could not let him defeat them one by one. There was no fear on Mahuyang's face. The sword key on the heavenly net sword in his hand was like a dragon. As the dragon's roar sounded, it transformed into numerous sharp sword key that wrapped around him. Ordinary attacks would not be able to harm him at all. Shulia held the battle axe in his hand. The surface of the axe was overflowing with spiritual light, and it was swung down like a peerless giant. As the energy spread out, the ground was split open, and a few dozen feet large marks could be seen on the surface of the axe. The short halberd in Luogen's hand was like a flood dragon, tearing through the air and aiming at Mahuyang's heart. As the flood dragon roared furiously, the sword energy protecting Mahuyang's body started showing signs of cracking. Suxing tightened his grip on the blade. As he swung the blade, the air was torn apart. A terrifying blade energy quietly spread across the void, causing the space to tremble. When the battle in the sky was about to erupt, many of the higher-ups of the Silver Moon Group on the ground looked at Shaoyan. In an instant, with a furious shout, dozens of people rushed towards Shaoyan. As the origin key moved, the surrounding rocks cracked open and turned into powder. We have just advanced to the Emperor realm, and we have already encountered such a great battle. This is truly exciting. He glanced at the sky. Shaoyan looked at the dozens of people rushing over, and a smile surfaced on his face. Amongst the nearly 30 people, there were nearly 20 Emperor stage experts and Peak of Monic King experts. There were 4 or 5 of them. Swoosh! Shaoyan held the blue flame ruler tightly in his hand. He looked coldly at Zhao Qingshan, who had a gloomy expression on his face. His opponents were not only the emperors but also the Monic Emperor alchemist. Hong! The crimson gold flame suddenly coiled around Xiaoyan's body. At the same time, the crimson gold flame also shook, and the fire became even more intense. The heavenly Monic flame mantra burning body was used to strengthen one's body. Monic flame secret skill wheel of fire, strengthen the flame. In just an instant, Xiaoyan's strength had skyrocketed to the peak of Monic King. As Xiaoyan's strength increased, he could finally unleash half of the Holy Art's heavenly Monic flame mantra burning body's strength. 9 revolving wind, 9 revolving wind. The force of the wind under his feet surged. Xiaoyan rushed into the crowd like a dragon. The Emperor Flame on the blue flame ruler roared and bombarded the surroundings. Ever since he had caused a huge ruckus in the main hall of Yuani City, Xiaoyan had never been so reckless. His soul force was highly concentrated. He carefully observed the movements of the crowd. Xiaoyan was like a god of slaughter. He waved the huge flaming ruler in his hand. The emotions that had been stifled in his body for many days seemed to have found a way to pour out. They turned into an endless amount of energy and surged out violently. Zhao Qingshan stood in the distance, and his eyes were cold and gloomy. He had used up too much of his soul force earlier, but after seeing the 2 Monic Emperor warriors from the mercenary alliance that Luojin had called out, he had no choice but to stay behind just in case. After all, he had done a lot of things like turning hostile and refusing to admit defeat. Damn brat, you are ruining my plans. Staring at Xiaoyan's imposing manner, Zhao Qingshan's eyes sparkled for a moment, but he didn't attack immediately. He clearly remembered how terrifying Xiaoyan was when he used the Fire Lotus. He would let these guys consume Xiaoyan's energy first, and then he would kill them. While Xiaoyan was unleashing his divine might, Mahuyang was also fighting 3 peak of Monic Emperor warriors in the sky. Facing these 3 powerful warriors, even Mahuyang didn't dare to underestimate them. His strength had completely erupted, and he had already reached the 3rd Monic Emperor. Furthermore, after his trip to the illusory spirit space, it was only a matter of time before he reached the 4th Monic Emperor. The heavenly net sword in his hand was like a dragon's roar. With a slight swing of the sword, it blocked Shuli's battle axe. Sword Qi swept across, and Luojin's short halberd was also blocked. Although the backbreaker in Suxing's hand did not belong to a heavenly weapon, it was still considered one of the top items among the high-grade Mahuyangs. As the blade light surged, it actually cut off the sword Qi that protected Mahuyang's body. The latter's clothes were torn apart, and his clothes were scattered in the wind. Mahuyang's body moved. Like a flowing light, he jumped out of the battle circle and glanced at Xiaoyan below. When he saw Xiaoyan showing off his divine might, he could not help but be startled. After which, he laughed lightly. He mumbled to himself, "This strength is even stronger than mine at that time." After saying that, Mahuyang raised his head and looked at the 3 people who had complacent expressions. He smiled coldly and said, "Am I too soft in my hands? Now, the game should be over." As his voice faded, the heavenly net sword in Mahuyang's hand pointed at the void. On the blade of the sword, a sword Qi shot into the sky and exploded. In an instant, the sky darkened, as if it had been imprisoned. Mahuyang's face was expressionless as he slowly said these words. In the next moment, in the sky, endless sword Qi poured down like a world-destroying thunderbolt, as if it was going to destroy the heaven and earth. Sensing the terrifying power contained within the sword Qi, Luojin and the other 2 men's facial expressions changed. This guy was only a Monic Emperor warrior, but the Monic skill he unleashed was actually this terrifying. Break it open. As the strongest Monic Emperor amongst the 3 men, Suxing recovered from his shock. Immediately, he let out a furious roar, and a golden light surged out from the broken blade in his hand. A blade shadow that was dozens of feet long condensed and formed into a huge golden python. The huge python opened its mouth wide, as if it was going to devour the sun and moon. 6 Freak Flood Dragon Halberd. Iron Bone Axe, split open the sky. Luojin and Shulia both roared out furiously. As the origin key surged out, they unleashed their strongest monic skill. In an instant, the flood dragon roared furiously, the golden python swallowed the sky, and the huge axe shook the world. The entire sky trembled. Mahyuyang remained unmoved. He watched the three of them move, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.